without further ado, Stephen Ben Israel.
That's something I recently discovered. If you get the blues, my dears and dearies, you can be by yourself and all of a sudden you smile and watch what happens. Now, I'd like for all of you to smile with me. So I'd like to see all those teeth. So 1, 2, 3, smile. Join me in this beautiful song. I love you too. Lord Buckley said, the object of humor is to make sure you don't get killed before you die. And as they say on the hip-hop scene, yo, Tuli was really that way. And as prologue, this piece is called Camping. I wrote it waiting for Steve Alashinsky for a weekly talk on the bench near a tree. So I wrote this and dedicated to Tuli. It's called Camping. There used to be people who used to put crusts of bread under the pillows of people in Auschwitz. Nobody knew who they were, because if they knew, so would the Nazis. Now, you can put crusts of bread on top of pillows and everywhere else. And no matter who sees it, it's okay. I don't usually read shit, but I'm going to read shit. Yeah, man, there's some shit you read, man. This is a piece which was a big favorite of Tuli. He told me he was very Yiddish and very anarchist. Can you beat that? So this is a piece I wrote in 1999. It's called Y2K. You remember Y2K? That's before Bush. Before Bush. There was that's another time when people got the willies. You know the willies? That's when the bottom of your asshole drops out. So I wrote this. Ed Sanders was kind enough to publish it in his Woodstock paper. I had it on hundreds of stations at NPR. I worked very hard on this. Y2K. And you'll see why Tuli done this. Oh, this is back in '99 when I didn't have a computer. I don't have a computer, but I know a lot of people do, and all companies and countries have them. But I'm still working with a number 2 pencil and the paper with the lines. And just maybe, the world needs a couple of guys like me. Lately, there's been a lot of talk about Y2K, and as far as I can understand, unless this Y2K bug is fixed, most computers will confuse the year 2000 with 1900 and crash and go haywire, and this bug is causing some heavy paranoia, and folks are getting worried about some new economic and social tilt coming their way, as if what's going on already isn't enough to deal with. But actually, I think going back to 1900 is a great idea, because we get a chance to do the 20th century over again, and this time get it right. Hey, in 1914, instead of World War I, we will have the first International Peace and Classical Music Conference in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia, chaired by Harriet Tubman, Igor Stravinsky, Emma Goldman, Enrique Caruso, Joyce Kilmer, to celebrate a global disarmament treaty. In 1929, instead of the Great Depression, we have the first great end of colonialism and jazz festival. In New Delhi. Hosted by Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, and Mahatma Gandhi. In 1939, instead of another murderous mess, it's the first World's Fair on Human Rights and Big Bands in Warsaw, Poland, chaired by Count Basie, Benny Goodman, Ernie Pyle, Fletcher Henderson, Marlene Dietrich, and Albert Einstein. In 1945, in Hiroshima, instead of the terrible mushroom cloud, is the first World Conference on the Environment and Bebop, chaired by Danny Kaye, Mae West, Charlie Parker, Billie Holiday, and Suzuki Roshi, in which the first global plans to preserve natural resources are adopted. In 1968 in Saigon, instead of the My Lai Massacre aftermath, it'll be glorious World Food, Rhythm, and Blues Day, hosted by John Lennon, Lightning Hopkins, Janis Joplin, Frankie Lyman, and the teenagers, Julian Beck and Thich Nhat Hanh, to celebrate the end of hunger. And at exactly 12 noon, everybody around the world will go, whoa, I can't eat another thing. I'm going for a walk. In 1976, in New York City, finally, the 4-hour workday, celebrated by Martin Luther King and Ronald Reagan. In 1984, it's universal housing, celebrated in Johannesburg, South Africa, hosted by Stephen Biko, Marilyn Monroe, and Chico Mendes. And in 1999, on the eve of the new millennium, in cities and towns, hip-hop and everywhere, there will be great parties, celestial harmonies, and tremendous confidence in the future, because our computers are 100% compliant, and humanity isn't far behind. This one, you know, Eric Trucker, right? Eric Trucker sent me something because he was close with Tuli. And there's a great new movie called Howl. It's not to be missed. And also, Eric Trucker has 20 minutes of just animation in it. Playing at a theater near you. So this is from Eric Trucker. For Tuli Kupferberg. Born into a secular Jewish family, we never went to synagogue, or did we bother with Passover, Purim, or Hanukkah. The only deities my elders seemed to worship was Karl Marx and Sigmund Freud. And so, as a young man, the closest thing I had to a rabbi was you two. through the years, I would run into you in the streets, on 10th Street, at the St. Mark's Place, and Tompkins Square Park, when the various radical bookstores New York City once had. And you always offered me a sweet words of gentle encouragement. Do it, you'd say. Your work is growing stronger every day. Occasionally, I'd drop by his place on 6th Avenue because I knew you'd give me honest answers to such practical questions as is monogamy practical? No, you say. It's not realistic over the long haul. Remember, love is important. Communicate with your partner and work something out together. You'll be happier. Years later, when I was racked with indecision, wrestling with the question to have a child or not to have a child, you smiled softly at me and you said, do it. You said, you'll be a good father. But I'm so irresponsible. I'm stammered. Tell me, is it wise for a crazy bohemian artist like me to bring a child into this world? Yes. You said, it was the best thing I ever did. You said, just look at Van Gogh. He was a great artist, all right, but the guy was miserable. And what's the point? Love is more important than art. Oh, Tuli, I miss your warm, smiling face on these cold, gray city streets, making art and making love. Happy birthday, Rebbe Tuli. Eric
It was a beautiful evening. Tuli birthday party is a totally great idea because Tuli will never die, so you can't really have an actual memorial. And I'm a lifelong fan of Tuli's. When I would come home from the reform school when I was 15, and they'd give me the one night a month where I got to go home, and then 1966 I was 15, and all the kids who were smoking weed in central Connecticut where I was growing up in that factory town were fanatical Fugs fans, and we would just sit and, like, you know, the melting candle wax, you know, would like drip around the Fugs record. The cover of the album was totally filled with wax, but not the record. And when I came to the Lower East Side and washed up on the Lower East Side in 1967, of course there was Ed Sanders' P-Side bookstore, and I would see Tuli all the time, and I'd do like, I mean, of course I never talked to him because that was like way too much, you know, for me. But over the years, I became friends with him, and he was always incredible about my work, like really supportive. He like really got me without me having to explain myself, and that's a lot. And so we did this interview. I did this really long interview with Tuli, and it was just one of the most wonderful things to have like a 6-hour conversation with him on video. And we broadcast that on MNN. It's in the rotation Wednesday nights at 11 p.m. on Channel 34 Time Warner. It's the LES Biography Project, Stemming the Tide of Cultural Amnesia. And one of the things Tuli, I just laugh all the time whenever I think of it, and Tuli said, he said, yeah, you know, he said they, you know, I was good at math, you know, so they had me in this school, you know, whatever it was, you know, the science high school where smart Jewish kids went. He said, and the teachers we had, he said, you know, they were Jews, you know, who couldn't teach at Harvard or Yale because they didn't let Jews teach there, so they were all teaching in these high schools and public colleges here in New York. He said, and this teacher of mine used to refer, you always called everybody master. So when you were at the blackboard, it was Master Kupferberg. he said, in the way they had it set up, he said that, you know, you had to do these, I'm really bad at describing math shit, but anyways, these problems, he said, and you could get 2 wrong answers. You know, he said you could get a 0 for having the wrong answer and a 0 for having the wrong form, and he said, I figured out, Jesus, he goes, shit, here I am in a situation where I can get 2 zeros for 1 mistake. I'm out of here. I didn't tell it as good as Tuli, which is really, of course, normal. So I didn't prepare anything. I'm just going to do this piece that Tuli liked, and just do a little bit of it. So I never thought I'd live in New York because it was so, you know, dangerous and everything. And then I was like watching Seinfeld all the time, and you know how everybody in that show keeps running in and out of each other's apartment. They like never lock the door. And I thought, how dangerous is that? I could do that. And then I was like watching Friends all the time, and you know how everybody on that show like has a really big room and a really big apartment, and they all have a job in a cafe serving coffee. And I thought, well, how much could they earn? I could do that. And I, you know, never actually wanted to be an artist or anything like that, but I wanted to be artistic, you know, like Martha Stewart, you know, or like Monica Lewinsky. You know how Monica Lewinsky makes little bags? Did you know she makes these little bags? And I really loved reading about the Beats, you know, the Beatniks. Oh my God, I love the Beatniks, you know, like Alan Burroughs, William Ginsberg, you know, and how they were always hanging out in French banks, and I thought that was so cool, you know, how they hung out in French banks, and that was, can you imagine, like how chic, I mean, a French bank, right? You know, and you know, like how, you know, because a lot of artists had this kind of love affair with poverty, but not the Beats. No, they were hanging out in French banks. I mean, can you imagine how chic? I mean, I'm totally into like brands like Prada, Miu, 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 Jimmy Choo, Jimmy Choo, Jimmy Choo. And like I never thought I could hang out in a cafe all day, you know what I mean, drinking coffee. But now I moved to New York and I go to Starbucks every single day. Isn't the furniture there cool? So I live on the Lower East Side. It's very multicultural, very ethnic. They call it LES. That stands for look, everyone's Spanish. But I live on the Lower East Side, but I'm saving my money so I can move to Williamsburg. Yeah, because like the Lower East Side is so over, the East Village is so over. I mean, it's all that failed artist energy, you know what I mean? Like everybody's like 45 and haggard, you know what I mean? Yeah, and like Williamsburg is so fresh. I mean, like, you know, it's like really, well, you know, it's like filled with artists because everybody's really young and arty, right? And so like, I really have to get out of the East Village because like it's so political, I can't take it. I mean, all that, you know, all that conspiracy theory, I mean, it really drives me crazy. I mean, look, you know, if the government wants to tap my phone, that's all right with me. I'm not doing anything wrong. You know, if the government wants to take my civil liberties, they should take my civil liberties. They should send my civil liberties to Iraq where people need civil liberties. I don't need what do I need civil liberties for? I'm an American, I don't need civil liberties. Oh my God, and like, you know, like after 2000, like after like 9/11, you know, like things were like a little bit better because things were a little bit more organized, you know what I mean? No, I mean, really, I mean, if that's fashion, then I love fascism, all right? I mean, it was organized, you know? But then, you know, lately, you know, people started to complain again about the police killing people. Well, that's the police's job. Do you have a gun? No. Do you have a gun? No. Do I have a gun? No, it's not my job. And now the police, you know, now people are complaining about the police killing black people again. The police are supposed to kill black people. Not all the black people. Not the black people who went to college. The other black people, you know, the black people who won't go to college.
Very smart ones.
Anyways, I love Tuli. Tuli is totally foundational in me, along with another pantheon, the rest of the pantheon of people, many of whom are in this room, who influenced me and who led by their example. And Tuli will never die. And that's the fucking bottom line. Thanks.
This is This is about one of my favorite Tuli drawings. Tuli draws the shape of America, smoking a cigarette in Reagan's bed. Was it good for you as me? Asked Reagan, refreshed by the shower in Psycho. Issuing licenses to dom to subs, spreading non-wealth, self-fetish around. Thank you.
where he may be here now, but then, the hell knows. What a glorious life he had. Shit. You know, he had a way better than average. You know, run for it. Okay. Whoever can do that one louder, should do that one louder. If anyone can.
If anyone can, it's probably.
Yeah.
It'll probably.
Oh, that's good. Wait, put more in. If this one's got numbers, maybe get together. Maybe. Okay. All right. Somebody said it goes back to the song called The White Cockade from 17-something. I heard The White Cockade is nothing like it at all. So I don't know. But it's, you know, I don't know.